Hello and welcome, or welcome back to the Sales Enablement Festival. I hope you're enjoying the event so far because we've got even more great content heading your way. Remember to have your questions at the ready and get the tailored answers you need from the experts themselves. Thank you again to our sponsors and partners for helping us bring this event to life. Don't forget, if you're enjoying the content from the festival, be sure to check out the SEC membership plans. You can find more information about this over on the Sales Enablement Collective website. Sit back and enjoy the next talk. Hello everyone and welcome back to this next talk that is hosted by Arit Belver, who is the Global Sales Trainer over at The Fork, and he's going to talk to you all about global onboarding projects, key lessons and learnings. So I'd like to welcome Arit to the virtual stage.
Thank you very much, Jack, for the introduction. Thanks everybody for attending. As you know, we are going to be talking actually today about global onboarding. I will be more specific about what this means actually. And mainly we will have an approach actually, in fact, more on actually challenging what I did, challenging my experience that I will share later on, right? More than really being super specific on things that were implemented at that time, right? We are not going actually focusing on the content itself, but we are focusing more on challenging what we deliver with a more global scope. As I was actually sharing in the abstract that you might have read, actually, the learnings that I will share with you, let's say, I'm not going to be reinventing the wheel, but it is true that very important things that we many times actually we overseen because maybe we are on a daily routine, we are working on an operational level, or we don't have actually the time to do that heads up, which is critical, right? So at the end, as you will see, actually, most of the learnings are related to the fact that we are working with people, and behind people, actually, there are actually a lot of things that many times actually we did not actually take them into consideration, right? So we'll be talking as well about how to develop trust, and for sales enablement, actually something that is critical, right? How to better build those local and global relationships and coordinate better. So just a little bit about me, so you guys better understand as well, not only my experience as well, but then it would be easier to focus and drive you through the whole story. If I took a look actually just quickly on my background on the last 10 years, I think that it's really important to highlight actually some experience that I had for 5 years in AMC. AMC is a multinational company in direct sales. I don't know if any of you had the opportunity actually to work on the direct sales sector, but the direct sales sector actually to me is like a great school of selling. Although there are not professional people, there are some of them actually are working, let's say, even part-time. You actually, well, my experience was amazing on this side, right? And related with the content we did today, I was actually working, I was doing sales enablement before I knew that sales enablement exists, to be honest, at that time, and very involved on training projects, right? I had the opportunity to work as a sales manager myself, which made me better professional sales enablement. I always say when you work on the field, you really can see things for first hand, and it will never be the same the way you display sales enablement. I think that it helps you to give a really more pragmatic vision. So after that, I had the opportunity as well to, let's say, have an entrepreneurial experience. Cookit is a company similar to HelloFresh. And again, it was the startup failed. We had like a half a year pushing for it only because we didn't have more capital, but it was really interesting experience. And then it comes what we will be sharing actually, right? We'll be sharing the experience that I had. I will be sharing the experience that I had mainly on the global onboarding that we built for The Fork. The Fork, a TripAdvisor company. You might have heard of The Fork, I guess. Maybe you have already booked with us. just shortly, the Fork is a platform where you can book the restaurants you want to go to on one side, but on the other side as well, we provide restaurants with a great booking management software, right? And at the beginning, 3 years ago, when I joined the Fork, and this is relevant to share now to better understand, we were actually managing as well the TripAdvisor restaurant unit, right? So there were 2 different teams, as I will explain now in a minute, which then actually we split them and we only focus on the Fork, right? But it's really interesting to better understand what was the difference of those 2 teams, because it will enrich the presentation. So why did I pick onboarding? Right? When I was thinking about which topic to choose, on one hand, as I said, because I had relevant experience on that, and with this, I don't mean that I have experienced tons of time, that it is the case. But going back to this difference between Trip and the Fork, actually, it was really interesting to see that the Fork actually was more challenging when implementing the global onboarding. Why? Because it was decentralized and it was heterogeneous, actually, Salesforce. What do I mean with this, right? All the Salesforce was based in Barcelona, right, where I am based, by the way, for TripAdvisor, while for the Fork, they were in different countries, right? So that's to start. But that was not the main problem, because actually the global onboarding we built, they were coming to Barcelona for a week, as I will explain later on. But the difficult thing was actually when we were persuading them, right? Because that means that as well, they have different managers, different cultures, actually, people who has been in the company for a longer time on one side, while TripAdvisor managers were only new, let's say like this, right? We will get deeper on this. But there is another part of the story which is worth sharing as well, that our sales enablement department was brand new almost, right? I joined the company, and when I joined the company 3 years ago, one of the big projects was this one of the global sales onboarding, and I had to deep dive on it and have an onboarding ready for 2 months, actually, for the 2 companies. So I was actually full at it. But the thing is that my boss and colleague at that time, he joined the company just 1 year ago. So let's say that we were new in a company where there were actually managers working for 10 plus years. And actually, we were in a speed win mode, right? What I think that was what it made us miss some important stuff, as I will share. But that was the strategy we used. Launch and then try to convince people once we have launched, right? As I said, there are some learnings actually that I would like to share with you. Before we go on, I think that it's interesting to stop for a minute and just to make sure that we are talking about what we talk when we mean onboarding, right? Have this clear. In our case, actually, what we do, what we've been doing until COVID came, actually, was like a full week, in our case, of global onboarding. So imagine the investment we did, actually. We were bringing everybody in Europe, every new hire in Europe, or we were trying to, proposing to come to Barcelona for a week. So that means an investment, right? We had weeks that we were up to 20 attendees per month. We were doing once per month, right? And we take the advantage actually to integrate HR and IT as well, because before they were doing separately, right? And then there was a follow-up period that in our case, actually, we were doing it through e-learning mainly, right? But to me, and I want to highlight this, that is for the onboarding and for the success of the onboarding and the ramp-up, there is, I would say that the local teams play even a bigger role, right? That it's how they onboard them as well and how they coach them. And in this side, actually, we didn't influence at all. We were not influencing on this side, where I think that it's a really interesting area to really deep dive and have a really impact. Right? So let's go for the 5 key lessons that I will share with you. On one hand, I think that we do not only need to have clear the why we are doing things, because when I ask myself why we start doing all this in this speed win situation, context, etc. And we had clear actually that we want to enhance ramp up on one hand. But we didn't know actually what was our real goal. Did we want to increase the productivity on a 10%? Did we want our teams to have a 1+ contract by the end of month 3? That was not quantified, right? So I think that that's critical to have in mind, not only for you as a project, but then as well to be able to sell the story, right? The same thing to scale. We knew actually, as I told you, that if we were actually bringing in IT and HR, which they were like separate onboardings at that time, and they were making us as a company as well, wasting too much time because we had no synergies with them. It was important to measure that as well, how much time we were planning to save for teams at the organization, right? That was a powerful message as well to share with the teams and share. And we were talking a lot about engagement. We believe that if we make people come to Barcelona, they will have a great week, they will know their peers, and it will bring them motivation that might actually last for more time and they might stay with us longer. But to be honest, we didn't even make any try to measure that engagement. So to me, at the end, it's make sure what you really, the reasons why you're doing it, and whatever you do, try to quantify if possible, not only for yourself, but at the end to sell the story properly. A second relevant learning actually is the empathy that many times actually we miss. And empathy, I think that we all believe that we are empathetic, but we just assume so, right? And going back to that context where we have to build this global onboarding, I took back and I was, let's say, almost talking only to people who believed that it was a great idea and it's going to work super good, right? But we never had a conversation of saying, listen, we are taking the responsibility of some other people, some other colleagues that they are doing it their way now, and we are asking them to trust on us. And this is change, and this is change management as well, right? So we didn't really, let's say, thought properly about that and say how we are gonna make sure that they really trust on us beyond the fact that they know that they should actually do it because it's a process or a new initiative actually from the company, right? And as I said, maybe the way we should have approached this should have been differently, because it's not the same thing in our reality, at least at the full reality, for a small country with little resources, which is begging for help, and suddenly he sees this project is, great to delegate on us, while other bigger countries with their routine, their resources, their doubts about sharing this or delegating this to a brand new sales enablement team with, let's say, no operational or no business experience in the fore, right? So it's a question we need to ask ourselves, how the rest are seeing us, and not how we would like to be seen, right? But even ask, take that thought before doing anything. Very linked with this as well, it's the other lesson of building things together, right? And obviously, we are sales enablement, we need to take the lead, but more than ever, a project like this, as many others in sales enablement, we need to feed from the knowledge of the field. On the field is where things are happening. On the field is where the knowledge is. I think that we as sales enablement, we have the ability to transfer the knowledge in a proper way, or to build or give the shape to that knowledge, right? And make sure that it's retained and that it triggers impact. But the knowledge, again, it's in the field. So something that I think that I would do differently, and we had the opportunity to do it because this program was relaunched, was make sure that you don't come with a final proposal as we did actually. We came with everything ready by saying, here it is, we did the best global onboarding ever, there we go. And then basically, do you agree? No? Do you have any comment? This is not the way how I see actually to really build things together and make sure that they will have an impact, right? So it's important to get their opinion first, and then obviously do with their opinion what you really want to do. But at least is to really take it in consideration and argue why or why not you are applying to it as well, right? That I think that we always say about gathering feedback, but then we don't know really how to manage the feedback, right? We need to be honest, but we need to actually give an answer and explain why yes or why not. If not, we'll never get more feedback, right? And it's when I say here the role of the manager is that if we have not made them part of the story, then it's really difficult that once everything is ready, come with them, right? We wanted for them to take a role as well during the onboarding, but for them was something new they didn't take part of. So it took us a while actually to convince them to come, to see, to experience, and to take part in it. Right? 2 more key lessons to go, and then we will have some time actually for Q&As. That I think that important in the Q&As. If you have any specific questions or more maybe operational as well, feel free to ask. But something actually I think that we did not do properly was to really set the expectations of what we were doing. And here regarding expectations, I would say that there are 2 different sides. Right? One is the expectations of the attendees, which I believe that these were more clear because we had actually days with them where at the beginning we were really sending the message of what we expected from them by the end of the week. But with managers was a different story, right? I mean, we were always getting some, let's say, complaints about saying, listen, you know, he or she came to Barcelona after a week, he's coming back here, and usually the typical complaint was, and they don't have like a good command of this or that tool. No? Usually it was Salesforce, right? But once again and again and again, and I think that this was due to the fact that we didn't actually make like a clear communication on what was the goal of that week, how they were going to be by the end of that week, so they can actually adapt, right? And many times it's not enough with communicating one time. We need to communicate, and something that many times we don't want to be, let's say, don't want to repeat ourselves. But it's much better to over-communicate than miscommunicate, to be honest. And at operational level, actually, 2 tips as well. One would be more regarding the process. I think that the process needs to be communicated, how to register, how to access, etc. If not, you can miss a lot of time on this, actually, when you are managing it. And feedback as well, as we will see on the next lesson as well, it helps out to iterate. And I'm talking here about 3 different feedbacks. Feedback of the attendees, feedback of managers, which we will collecting at the very beginning during the first month in a regular basis. And as well, something that we did that to me was one of the added value of the onboarding itself was feedback about the attendees for the manager. And this was really appreciated, right? Because at the end, it's not only about the fact that we are training the teams, it's as well that the managers want to get that feedback of reconfirmation that they did a good recruitment or not, right? So just after a few days with them, we were able to actually give them some inputs that they can take into consideration for the future weeks, right? And which was really appreciated. And last key lesson here is how we were actually, well, it's related with data, right? And with data, I think that there is like a big debate. Well, there could be a debate actually about how to use data on what is the relevancy of data. No? That for some data is everything, and for others actually, as for me in this moment, data can help us out to make us the right questions, but knowing the limitations as well, right? Because many times in sales enablement, there are many variables actually impacting the results we want to measure and in other fields, so it's important to have it in mind. But it's definitely important to measure as well because it's the only way actually to take some decisions and be able to ask the good questions. So interesting for you, and just 1 minute and we can actually jump to the Q&A. It was interesting that after global onboarding, what we saw was that those globally onboarded actually by global department were having, let's say, better results on the ramp up than those which were not, right? But most interesting, actually, we say, okay, that's good, but let's don't get the good news. Let's compare ourselves with the best country. And the best country, actually, the best performing country was one country who decided not to send their attendees to our onboarding. And see what? They were doing better. That country who was not sending their new hires to us to train them, they were doing better. So obviously, next step was, what are you guys doing? What they were doing actually was like a shorter onboarding, only 3 days onboarding. So that made us actually consider this option. Plus, if we take into consideration the fact that some other countries, after our global onboarding, they were doing the local onboarding very long, etc., we were seeing that we were losing some synergies. So we decided, let's try to adopt this shorter onboarding format. And in this shorter onboarding format, let's try to give more space to local managers so we can actually feed those synergies between global and local onboarding synergies, right? And this is what we did. Actually, in fact, the pandemic just came weeks later, so they pushed us to this 3 days onboarding, which we did it actually remotely this time, right? So yeah, man, summing up, as I said, think the objectives, think why actually we are doing the onboarding or any project we are doing. And I put this plus, why plus, to really go into detail. Remember and put on the shoes anytime we are doing a change. Think about the different profiles you are working with and how they can feel and adapt to those different personalities when needed, and the message we can share with them. Take them into account during the process as well. Manage expectations and make sure you follow up. Because at the end, if we are giving away, we are giving some actually goals, then we need to actually follow up on those goals. No matter if those goals actually, to follow up those goals, take 1 year, take 1 year and a half. We must do it. If not, we lost a lot of credibility on this. Right? So this was all on my side. I hope it was useful, and now would be more than happy actually to be able to reply to your questions or to share my thoughts.
First one from Sarah, who said, how are you evaluating success in your onboarding program?
I guess you were reading actually the question of Sarah, the first one.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. We actually, the way we evaluate the success was directly with the KPIs that the sales have. So sales have some KPIs that basically, in our case, are we can talk about sales and achievement, different type of sales that they are doing, right? And in the case of account managers that they were joining as well, or teams, we selected actually those where we believe that the training could have an impact. And out of the many KPIs as well were mainly sales influence. So it was, summing up, it was sales. Basically, we were picking up the sales. So no engagement. We didn't take a look to engagement. We were staying more. And something that we did not do actually as well was, as I said, check out that, let's say, make a ROI, right, generally speaking, and see as well the time we were saving. Because, listen, doing an onboarding in a local scale, to do it right, it requires a lot of time of each manager, actually. So we didn't do this exercise of, let's sum up the time we are investing today compared to the time that these guys should invest later with or help, right? So that would be another interesting exercise, to be honest.
Yeah, great answer. So the next question comes from Frank, who said, what stage of onboarding would you argue is the most overlooked / underappreciated?
That's a good question, Frank, and I have no doubts actually in answering this. And it's basically where we have not focused on, that it's what happened next, the global onboarding in our case. And you might ask, actually, I will explain a little bit more. You might ask, actually, why, if it's the stage where you believe that could be higher impact, we have not focused on. I think that as well in here, there are different reasons. One is that we need to go step by step. As I said, we were a new sales enablement department. So for us, it was actually a big step already to start working with the new hires at the very beginning. But then once after that week of onboarding we were doing, and now 3 days actually of remote onboarding, once we bring them back actually to the teams, to be honest, from sales enablement, we are blind of what's really happening. We know actually there are some shadowings. We know actually they spend some time with them and explain, but we don't know if there is a systematic way of working. And I'm sure that the knowledge is there, that the best practices are there, but we have not actually contrasted who is the best in class, what they are doing, and try to put that knowledge actually on the rest of the teams, right? And this is something that is pending and it's on our to-do list.
Yeah, great answer again. So we have had one more question come in that says, does your onboarding focus on any cultural/soft skill learning for the geography your sales team would cater to, i.e. based in Europe but selling to Latin America?
Not really. We couldn't actually adapt or customize up to that level. At the very beginning, actually, we actually had, it was really challenging for us because we were actually not only inviting to, as you have said, profiles from 22 different countries, but at the same time with different roles. Trainers, account managers, and sales. So that made actually pretty complex to try to customize up to those levels. But what we are doing today with this enhancement of giving a bigger role to local sales leaders, basically what we are doing with them is we give you the slot, we give you some tips on the content that we want you actually to train the team on, to have some, let's say, common content or common training, but at the same time, we leave them time for those specificities. So I'm sure that in this case, whenever a Latin American actually joining, the Latin American actually manager will be able to explain that sales methodology, that pitch, that better will fit to them, right? And not as we were doing, that it's basically a common pitch for everybody. So in that sense, again, bigger role of local leaders on the onboarding, it's key to find those synergies and to deliver higher impact.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for that. I do actually have one last question for you, and I've asked it to a few other speakers as well, is what tips do you have for someone who is new to kind of sales enablement and a role within sales enablement?
Who is new, I would say, first of all, you need to understand your organization and the people that you are working with. I think that at least many times we really take care too much, and we are worried about content, knowledge, knowing this and that process. And this at the end, it's not vital. Things that you can learn, who nobody would be expecting you to know. At the end, we believe that we need to know about everything, and sales enablement cannot do about everything. We cannot know about processes of different countries, about marketing, about product. We don't need to feel, let's say, ashamed on that sense of needing support or needing to go and access to some information, while it's vital to really understand which are the, let's say, the social mechanism or the politics as well of the organization. And this is something that at the very beginning, if you are new to sales enablement or if you are new to the organization, you need to research it. And you need to know how to research, because they are not simple questions to ask, right? Yeah. But just I can tell you like a quick example of this. When we were actually deploying this global sales enablement, as it happens in every organization I've been, and I'm sure, and in your case, I this as well, you have these examples. On sales organization, as in every actual organization, there are always different types of profiles. There is one profile who is closer, not open mind. It's not going to be welcoming you, but at the end, you need to gain his trust. And when you gain his trust, he will actually rely on you, right? So it's about creating confidence. And for that, you need to understand who you're working with.
Yeah, great answer. And yeah, that is actually all we have time for. If anyone would like to continue the conversation with Aritz and ask him any more questions, please do connect with him over on LinkedIn, and I'm sure he'll be happy to answer any of those questions for you. With that said, Aritz, thank you so much for presenting and taking the time to answer the questions from the audience. And thank you to everyone who also tuned in. We will see you all very soon.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Aritz.